The morning air in Warrenton, Virginia was heavy with the scent of damp grass and old history. The small brick courthouse sat quietly at the heart of the town, its colonial steeple casting a long shadow over the square. Inside, wooden floors creaked beneath the feet of the early arrivals, and ceiling fans stirred the stale, sun-warmed air lazily. Today was not just any ordinary morning. Today the town would witness a confrontation that blurred the lines between justice and honor. Corporal Ethan Carter stepped into the courtroom, every motion measured, precise, trained. At 28, tall, lean, with eyes deep and unreadable, he carried the weight of 1,000 untold stories. His hair was cropped short beneath the tomb guard cap, and his uniform, dark blue coat, crisp white trousers, polished black shoes, reflected the discipline of a soldier who had dedicated his life to honoring the fallen. Above his heart, the Medal of Honor gleamed against the dark fabric, a silent testament to sacrifice and courage. Whispers rippled through the crowd, a mix of awe and disbelief. Veterans straightened, fingers twitching as if to salute, while townsfolk leaned forward, trying to understand why this simple act of testimony had drawn such attention. The bailiff's voice cut sharply through the murmur. All rise for the Honorable Robert Hargrove. Judge Hargrove, a man of 60 with sharp gray eyes and a face carved by decades of authority, entered the room. His black robe draped over his shoulders like a mantle of power, and the echo of his shoes on the wood floor silenced the room. He adjusted his glasses, scanning every face with the precision of a hawk, then nodded to the bailiff. "Call the first witness," he commanded. Ethan approached the stand with a calm, deliberate rhythm. Each step echoed like a heartbeat, 21 steps. Pause, turn, repeat. The cadence he had rehearsed countless times at Arlington. He reached the witness stand, eyes fixed straight ahead, hands at his sides. Judge Hargrove leaned forward. "Corporal Carter, before you are sworn in, remove that medal. This is a courtroom, not a parade." The room fell into tense silence. Ethan's gaze never wavered. "With all due respect, Your Honor," he said, voice low, steady, "this medal isn't mine. It belongs to the men who didn't come home. I wear it for them." The judge's face tightened. "I don't care who it belongs to. Remove it or you won't testify." Slowly, with the same precision he used at the tomb of the unknown soldier, Ethan unfastened the medal and placed it carefully on the wooden ledge beside the microphone. The soft clink resonated like a gunshot. A collective exhale swept through the courtroom, some in disbelief, others in quiet outrage. Ethan raised his right hand. "I, Ethan Carter, do solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. So help me God." He sat, posture rigid, eyes still fixed somewhere beyond the judge. Questions about the disputed road easement began, dry and procedural. Ethan answered clearly, his words clipped but precise. Yet the room was not listening to the legal minutiae. All eyes were drawn to the Medal of Honor on the ledge, stripped of its place on Ethan's chest. A symbol of sacrifice momentarily separated from its bearer. The energy in the courtroom was thick, almost tangible. The air seemed charged with anticipation, a quiet tension that pressed against every chest. This was more than a dispute over land. It was a test of values, honor, and respect, and the nation watched, silently, as one man stood firm for those who could no longer stand for themselves. The courtroom remained tense after Ethan Carter had placed the Medal of Honor on the ledge. Whispers filled the air, a low hum of awe, confusion, and restrained anger. The townsfolk shifted uneasily. Veterans straightened, their eyes fixed on the small blue ribbon of the medal, glinting under the fluorescent light. It was a symbol of valor, temporarily disrespected, and the weight of the room pressed upon every attendee. From the back row, a woman rose. Colonel Sarah Ninguan, retired, 50 years old, short-cropped brown hair with posture precise and commanding, moved forward. Her presence filled the space effortlessly, her navy suit immaculate yet unassuming. Every eye turned as she approached the aisle, steady and unshakable. "Your Honor," she began, voice calm but firm, cutting through the tension like a knife. Judge Hargrove's eyes snapped up, a flicker of surprise crossing his otherwise composed face. "This is a court of law, ma'am," he barked. "Unless you are counsel or a subpoenaed witness." "I am neither," Sarah interrupted, her tone unwavering. "I am Colonel Sarah Ninguan, United States Army, retired. I served with Corporal Ethan Carter in Afghanistan. I was there when he earned that medal you ordered him to remove." A ripple of murmurs swept the room. Even the bailiff glanced uncertainly at the judge. Ethan's eyes, still fixed forward, softened just slightly at the sight of Sarah, the woman whose life he had saved. In 2019, in Helmand Province, our convoy was ambushed. 12 of us were pinned down, taking fire from 3 sides. Sarah continued, her voice resonant and precise. Corporal Carter ran through a hail of bullets, pulling each of us to safety. I myself was carried over 200 yards with a bullet wound in his leg. That medal is not a decoration, it is a debt. The crowd fell silent, the weight of her words pressing down. A few younger veterans leaned forward, absorbing every syllable while townsfolk exchanged glances. Disbelief mingled with growing respect. Judge Hargrove's face twitched, betraying unease. Colonel, you are out of order. Sit down immediately, or I will have you removed. With respect, Your Honor, Sarah said, taking one deliberate step closer. You are the one out of order. You asked him to remove the memory of men who gave their lives. You asked him to break his oath. The murmurs escalated into a low roar of approval. Veterans in wheelchairs straightened, some standing with trembling hands. Townsfolk followed, a slow wave of solidarity forming behind Ethan and Sarah. Ethan rose without prompting. He stepped to the witness stand, knelt slightly to pick up the Medal of Honor and held it gently in his hands, knuckles white. I am not here for myself, he said, voice cutting through the room. I am here for the men who never returned, who have no voice but mine. Sarah stepped beside him, her eyes locked on the judge. This is not about a road or a gate. It's about respect. You have disrespected a man who has given more than you will ever understand. Judge Hargrove banged his gavel, his voice cracking. This court is in recess. Clear the room! But no one moved. Veterans, townsfolk, and even the court stenographer remained standing, silent witnesses to the truth. Jake Morales, a young reporter in the second row, captured the moment on his phone, the live stream climbing rapidly. The judge stormed out, robe flapping, leaving a courtroom alive with an electric stillness. Ethan stood at the podium, Medal of Honor in hand, unpinned, but glowing with the weight of history, sacrifice, and the unwavering honor of a tomb guard. The courthouse remained charged with a heavy silence after Judge Hargrove stormed out. Ethan Carter held the Medal of Honor gently, his face unreadable but eyes burning with purpose. Colonel Sarah Ninguan remained by his side, her posture rigid, every movement deliberate, radiating authority and calm. Around them, veterans and townsfolk lingered, a quiet collective standing, a wall of respect and moral judgment in the air. Jake Morales, the young reporter in the second row, continued recording, capturing the scene for thousands watching online. His phone screen glowed as comments flooded in. This is America. Honor the fallen. Shame on that judge. Every whisper and murmur of the live crowd seemed amplified through the lens, carrying the story far beyond the walls of Warrington. Ethan finally spoke, his voice low but firm. I am not here for myself. I am here for the men who never returned. Every step I take at Arlington is for them. Every pause, every salute, every beat of this medal represents the oath I swore to uphold. His words hung in the air, heavy, palpable, a testament to years of discipline, sacrifice, and quiet endurance. The crowd shifted as Colonel Sarah stepped closer. Your honor may be gone, but the truth remains, she said. Her eyes scanned the room, resting momentarily on veterans who nodded subtly, their hands trembling with emotion. Corporal Carter is a tomb guard. Every action, every step at Arlington is a promise kept to those who cannot speak for themselves. From the back of the courtroom, whispers grew louder, a mixture of admiration, indignation, and awe. An older veteran with a faded cap stood slowly, gripping the armrest of his chair. Another followed, then another, until a small chorus of quiet acknowledgement spread through the room. The moral weight of the moment was undeniable. Jake's live stream hit tens of thousands of viewers. News outlets and veterans groups began sharing clips. Warrington's courthouse, a small brick building with colonial windows and wooden floors, had become a symbol of national attention, honor, and defiance against injustice. The Medal of Honor, cradled carefully in Ethan's hands, shone in the soft afternoon sunlight filtering through the windows. Ethan moved deliberately, placing the medal back on his chest, but not with haste. Each motion was ceremonial, precise, almost sacred. He resumed the rhythm he had perfected at Arlington. 21 steps. Pause, turn, repeat. The sound of polished shoes on the wooden floor echoed through the silent courtroom, each step a heartbeat of remembrance. Colonel Sarah stood silently beside him, watching, ensuring that the act was witnessed, recorded, and understood. The townsfolk and veterans remained standing, their collective presence a statement stronger than words. They were a testament to shared respect, to the recognition that honor cannot be commanded, it must be earned and defended. Outside, reporters whispered among themselves, but inside the room the focus remained absolute. The simple rhythm of Ethan's steps, the gleam of the Medal of Honor, the unwavering stance of a retired colonel, and the reverent silence of the community combined into a moment that would echo far beyond Warrington, beyond the courthouse walls and into the hearts of those who valued integrity above authority. By the evening, the courthouse had emptied, but the impact of the day lingered like a tangible weight in the air. News cameras still lingered outside, veterans spoke in hushed tones about what had transpired, and the town of Warrington buzzed with anticipation. Every conversation carried Ethan Carter's name, Colonel Sarah Ninguan's intervention, and the moment the Medal of Honor was returned to its rightful place. Inside the courthouse earlier, the judge's absence was a strange relief. Ethan remained standing at the podium, Medal of Honor cradled in his hands as if the medal itself demanded reverence. Colonel Sarah stood beside him, her expression calm yet fiercely protective, ensuring that every observer understood the gravity of the act they had just witnessed. Veterans slowly filed out, nodding to Ethan or offering quiet words of respect. "You did them proud," one whispered, a tremor in his voice. A few townsfolk lingered, unsure whether to approach or remain distant. Each eye remained fixed on the man who had held history in his hands, every step he had taken echoing with meaning. Jake Morales' livestream had exploded in views. Comments poured in from across the nation. Honor above all. Respect the fallen. Judge Hargrove should be ashamed. Ethan Carter embodies the oath we all should live by. The video spread like wildfire. Veterans groups, social media accounts, and national outlets picking up fragments, each clip amplifying the story further. Ethan quietly returned to his seat. His posture remained straight, disciplined, each movement deliberate. Even in repose, there was a weight to him, a reminder that the Medal of Honor represented more than personal achievement. It symbolized every fallen soldier whose sacrifice went unseen, unheard, and unfailingly unforgotten. Colonel Sarah remained a silent sentinel beside him. She knew the narrative had shifted. The courtroom, once a place of authority wielded without moral clarity, had become a stage for truth, respect, and integrity. The judge's orders had faltered against the unwavering moral courage of a soldier and the witness who owed her life to him. Outside, the reporters continued filming. Ethan, unaffected by cameras, remained focused on the principles he had always upheld. To him, the Medal of Honor was not a trophy, but a covenant. It was a reflection of duty, sacrifice, and unspoken promises made at the tomb of the unknown soldier. By the next morning, Warrington was transformed. Veterans and townsfolk organized a silent vigil outside the courthouse. Flags fluttered gently in the early breeze, the morning sun casting long, solemn shadows across the brick steps. Although Ethan did not attend, his presence was felt in every stance, every salute, and every quiet murmur of respect. Judge Hargrove's position became untenable. The public outcry, social media storm, and relentless coverage created a pressure that could not be ignored. By the week's end, he resigned quietly, offering no apology, no acknowledgement, leaving the courthouse in silence, a stark contrast to the roar of respect and honor that Ethan and Sarah had inspired. In Arlington, Ethan returned to his sacred rhythm. 21 steps, pause, turn, repeat, each step a testament to the men and women whose names were carved in silence. The Medal of Honor glimmered on his chest, but it was the promise behind it that held the weight of the world. The country had witnessed, the town had honored, and the principle of unwavering respect had prevailed. News of the courtroom confrontation spread rapidly beyond Warrington. By morning, national media outlets had picked up Jake Morales' livestream, amplifying Ethan Carter's story to millions. Headlines blared across screens. Tomb Guard stands firm for honor. Medal of Honor respected judge resigns. Social media platforms were flooded with posts praising Ethan's unwavering commitment to those who never returned from the battlefield. Inside Arlington National Cemetery, Ethan maintained his precise rhythm. 21 steps, pause, turn, repeat. The medal on his chest reflected the morning sun, glinting as if signaling the collective attention now focused on him. Yet, despite the newfound fame, Ethan remained unmoved. His dedication was not for applause, but for the men and women whose sacrifices demanded remembrance. Colonel Sarah Ninguan, now widely recognized for her intervention, continued supporting Ethan quietly. Her presence, dignified and steady, became a symbol of mentorship, courage, and accountability. Veterans who had watched the video online reached out, some leaving messages of gratitude, others traveling to Arlington to witness Ethan's steps firsthand. The courtyard of the tomb gradually became a place of pilgrimage, visitors showing respect without disrupting the solemn ritual. Back in Warrington, the courthouse steps were crowded. Veterans, townsfolk, and media gathered, some holding American flags, others quietly observing. The air carried a mix of pride, reflection, and the somber reminder of past sacrifices. Judge Hargrove's early retirement had left the town with a story of moral accountability. The courthouse, once a symbol of rigid authority, now symbolized the power of integrity and courage, standing against improper power. Jake Morales released a short documentary, weaving courtroom footage with interviews from veterans and clips of Ethan walking his precise steps at the tomb. Millions watched as the story unfolded, connecting the small town of Warrington with the larger national conscience. Ethan's silence in interviews only strengthened the narrative. It was not about recognition, but honor and fidelity to the oath he had taken. The effect rippled through military forums, classrooms, and veteran groups. Ethan's actions became a teaching point for service members and civilians alike. Honor is demonstrated through unwavering commitment, even when faced with authority challenging moral truth. The Medal of Honor, though tangible, represented something far deeper, a bond between those who serve and those who gave everything. One evening, under a light rain, Ethan stood alone at the tomb. His uniform glistened and the Medal of Honor rested over his heart. He whispered the names of those he had lost in Afghanistan, one by one, a ritual as precise as the 21 steps he took. Colonel Sarah watched from a distance, a silent guardian, ensuring that the sanctity of the moment remained untouched. The rain fell gently, mixing with the solemnity of the marble, creating an atmosphere of reflection, resilience, and profound respect. Ethan's steps echoed across the cemetery, a rhythmic reminder to all who observed, either in person or through screens, that the core of honor was not in public recognition or courtroom decisions. It was in steadfast dedication to those who could no longer speak for themselves. And for Ethan, each day, each step, each pause was a reaffirmation of a promise kept beyond words, beyond medals, beyond time. News outlets across the United States continued to broadcast Ethan Carter's story. Veterans groups organized local events, using the footage as a teaching tool about courage, integrity, and the weight of honor. Ethan's restraint in interviews only amplified his mystique. He never sought personal attention, and every action reaffirmed that his loyalty was to those who could no longer speak for themselves. In Warrington, the courthouse had transformed into a symbolic space. Veterans returned regularly, sharing stories with younger generations about the day the tomb guard stood his ground. Locals who had witnessed the courtroom event now spoke proudly of the moral lesson delivered in that small brick building, a reminder that courage often came from the quietest, most disciplined souls. At Arlington, Ethan resumed his duties with the same unwavering precision. 21 steps, pause, turn, repeat. The Medal of Honor rested over his heart, a tangible reminder of both past sacrifices and the unspoken promises he carried. Colonel Sarah Ninguan frequently visited, walking beside him at a discreet distance, her eyes scanning the horizon and the few visitors who came to witness the ritual. Together, they maintained the sanctity of the tomb, a balance between solemnity and public attention. One afternoon, a group of schoolchildren, guided by a history teacher, arrived at the cemetery. Their wide-eyed curiosity and hushed whispers reflected the weight of the history surrounding them. Ethan's steps echoed in the background as they observed respectfully, understanding instinctively that this was a lesson about more than military discipline. It was about the essence of honor and commitment. The teacher explained the significance of the Medal of Honor, of the tomb, and of the sacrifices made by soldiers like Ethan and his fallen comrades. Meanwhile, social media continued to ripple with discussions about justice, respect, and moral courage. The viral video had become a cultural touchstone, sparking debates in classrooms, military forums, and newsrooms. Ethan's actions had inadvertently inspired a national conversation about accountability, respect, and the unyielding strength of character required to uphold what is right, even when confronted by authority. Late in the evening, under a quiet drizzle, Ethan walked the tomb alone. The marble glistened with raindrops, reflecting soft city lights in the distance. Colonel Sarah observed from the shadows, allowing him his solitude. With each step, pause and turn, Ethan whispered the names of those lost, a cadence of remembrance that carried across the cemetery. The weight of history, sacrifice and honor seemed to press upon every stone. Yet Ethan moved with unwavering discipline, a living testament to the promise of service beyond self. As night fell, the wind carried a calm resolve across Arlington. Visitors departed quietly, leaving Ethan and Sarah in a shared understanding that the events in Warrington had transformed not only a courthouse, but the broader consciousness of those who valued honor above all. In that silent moment, the Medal of Honor was no longer just a symbol. It was a bridge between the living and the fallen, a reminder of courage, fidelity, and the enduring strength of integrity. Chapter 7. Lessons of Honor Weeks had passed since the viral courtroom incident, but the echoes of that day lingered in every corner of Warrington and beyond. Veterans organizations, schools, and civic groups invited Ethan and Colonel Sarah Ninguan to speak, though Ethan always declined media interviews. His message did not require words. It was demonstrated daily through discipline, ritual, and unwavering respect for the fallen. At Arlington, the cemetery had become both sanctuary and classroom. Tourists, students, and veterans observed Ethan's measured steps, each pause a testament to the men and women whose names were unknown, but whose sacrifices were eternal. Colonel Sarah occasionally walked beside him, ensuring that the solemnity of the ritual remained intact amid growing public interest. She offered subtle guidance but never interfered, understanding that the power of example was more profound than any lecture. One afternoon, a group of young cadets arrived, uniforms crisp, eyes wide with reverence. Ethan's movements were precise, glinting metal reflecting the late afternoon sun. The cadets mirrored his posture, learning not just the mechanics but the purpose behind every step. Colonel Sarah addressed them afterward, her tone calm but commanding. Honor is not given. It is earned through action, discipline, and integrity. Remember those who came before you. Meanwhile, social media discussions continued to honor Ethan's restraint. Clips of his silent defiance against Judge Hargrove circulated alongside commentary about moral courage and the power of principled action. Veterans shared personal reflections, recounting experiences where integrity had demanded a stand, even when authority opposed them. The story of Warrington had become a blueprint for ethical leadership, illustrating that respect and fidelity are often demonstrated in small, disciplined actions rather than grandiose gestures. As evening descended, the rain returned, lightly drizzling over the marble tomb. Ethan walked the 21 steps, each echo resonating across the empty courtyard. His face remained solemn, focused, brown eyes scanning the path, hands slightly flexed, Medal of Honor resting above his heart. Colonel Sarah lingered nearby, watching from the shadows, her presence a quiet affirmation that the ritual mattered not only to Ethan but to all who witnessed it. In the fading light, Ethan paused at the midpoint, closed his eyes, and whispered names of fallen comrades. The wind carried his words softly across the cemetery, a dialogue with the past, a pledge for the future. The visitors, few but attentive, remained silent, absorbing the weight of honor embodied in his ritual. For them, it was a lesson not only about military service but about courage in everyday life, standing firm for what is right, even in the face of authority, criticism, or public scrutiny. By nightfall, the steps were complete. The Medal of Honor shimmered faintly in the dim light, a beacon of commitment beyond recognition. Colonel Sarah watched Ethan as he retreated to a quiet corner of the cemetery, taking a final moment to reflect. In those silent intervals between steps, the lesson was clear. Honor is measured not by applause, but by fidelity to those who cannot speak, by courage to maintain one's principles, and by the relentless pursuit of duty. Chapter 8. The last steps of honor months after the courtroom incident. Ethan Carter's story had cemented itself in the consciousness of the nation. Veterans' halls, schools, and military forums referenced his discipline as a benchmark for integrity. Yet for Ethan, the focus remained singular, the tomb of the unknown soldier. Each step, each pause was a pledge renewed, a testament to those who gave everything without expectation of recognition. On a crisp spring morning, Arlington was alive with quiet reverence. Families, veterans, and school groups filled the pathways, umbrellas in hand, observing the ritual from a respectful distance. Ethan moved with the same precision as always. 21 steps, pause, turn, repeat. His uniform immaculate, the Medal of Honor gleaming over his heart. Colonel Sarah Ninguan walked beside him, her posture strong yet understated, eyes scanning for any disruptions while giving Ethan the space to perform his duty undisturbed. As the crowd watched, the rhythm of Ethan's steps became almost hypnotic, each echo across the courtyard emphasizing the weight of silent vows. A few veterans approached him afterward, offering quiet nods and words of respect. The children present, wide-eyed and attentive, seemed to understand instinctively that this was more than ceremony. It was history in motion, a lesson in honor that transcended textbooks. Meanwhile, the viral video from Warrington continued to inspire debate and admiration. Clips were shared across platforms, often juxtaposed with interviews from veterans reflecting on courage, accountability, and moral responsibility. Ethan never spoke to the press, letting his actions speak louder than any headline. Colonel Sarah occasionally addressed small gatherings, her calm authority framing the story as an enduring example of principled leadership. As dusk approached, the sky painted in muted shades of pink and blue, Ethan paused midway through his steps, glancing at the Medal of Honor over his chest. He whispered the names of the fallen one last time for the day. The wind carried his words softly, and the marble beneath his polished shoes reflected the fading light. The crowd, silent, absorbed the solemnity, understanding that honor is maintained in both action and restraint. When the ritual concluded, Ethan placed the final step deliberately, his gaze distant yet resolute. Colonel Sarah stood beside him, her presence a silent acknowledgement of their shared understanding. No applause, no fanfare, just the quiet respect of those who recognize the weight of the moment. Later, as the visitors departed, Ethan remained briefly at the tomb, touching the Medal of Honor on his chest, each star and ribbon a bridge to the past. The rain began to fall lightly, creating ripples across the marble, reflecting the glow of distant city lights. Ethan's figure, disciplined and unyielding, stood as a testament that honor is more than recognition. It is a daily commitment to the memory of those who sacrificed all. By nightfall, the courtyard emptied, leaving only Ethan and Sarah in the solemn silence. Across the nation, social media continued to share clips, sparking conversations about courage, respect, and the unshakable power of moral conviction. The story of the tomb guard had come full circle, from courtroom defiance to nationwide inspiration, ending not in accolades, but in the enduring rhythm of 21 steps.